Welcome to Expert Real Estate Secrets, the show where real investors share real strategies that actually work. No fluff, just actionable tips to help you close more deals, make more money, and build lasting wealth. Let's get started.
Real estate is about numbers, but deals close because of people. Hey everyone, welcome back to Expert Real Estate Secrets. I'm Mia Arnold, here with the legendary Dawn DeRosa. Today we're digging deep into the psychology of the deal, what really drives people to sell, and how understanding that can help you close more efficiently.
Thanks, Mia. Yeah, we always talk about numbers and spreadsheets on this show, but at the end of the day, sellers aren't just selling a house. They're usually selling a problem, something they need to move on from. And honestly, it's the people side that makes or breaks so many deals. I'll never forget. Years ago, I had this landlord. She was totally burned out. The properties weren't even that bad, but she just hit a wall. Emotionally, she needed help, fast. And it wasn't about getting top dollar. It was about getting relief yesterday. That urgency, that's what gets deals done, not just a low price tag.
Right, and I think this is why so many new investors get stuck, Dawn. They focus so much on the numbers, like we talked about when we covered Burr a couple episodes back, but they forget sellers are real people. They're under stress. They might be facing foreclosure, dealing with a divorce, maybe probate, or even just tired of being a landlord. And every one of those situations is loaded with emotions: fear, guilt, stress, total mental fatigue.
Exactly, Mia. And let's be clear here. Being a motivated seller isn't the same as being desperate. It just means there's urgency, some trigger pushing them to take action sooner rather than later. If you can tap into that and really understand what's driving them, you'll close a lot more deals. And honestly, you'll make a bigger difference too.
So let's talk about what these motivated sellers actually want, because it's usually not just about the money. Dawn, what do you see as the big priorities?
That's a good question. Most of the time, the number one thing is certainty. They want to know the deal is actually going to close, especially if they've been burned before or if time is tight. Speed comes right after that. I mean, a lot of sellers, especially in distress, would rather walk away with a little less money if it means they get relief today instead of waiting and worrying.
Totally. And honestly, I see respect come up all the time too. Like people in pre-foreclosure, they don't want to be judged or lectured or treated like they messed up. They just want a real solution, someone who treats them like a human. I remember I had a seller who was terrified her neighbors would find out about her situation. Respect and keeping her dignity, that was worth way more to her than an extra $5,000 or $10,000. She just needed to trust someone.
Yeah, and relief. You nailed it. Relief from stress is almost always the real currency. That's why people are willing to give up equity, not because they don't care about money, but because peace of mind is what they can't buy at any price. It all comes down to solving their problem, not just making an offer.
This is where the investor's mindset has to shift, right? Because you can't just walk in thinking, how do I get the lowest price?
Nope. The better question is, what problem can I really solve for this person? You're there as a guide, not a shark. People buy trust, not contracts. If you want to get more deals, especially in those urgent situations, stop thinking about squeezing every penny out and start thinking about removing the pain point that's keeping this person up at night. I've closed so many deals where the price was secondary, and it hinged entirely on whether the seller believed I could end their headache, not just hand them a check.
We talked a little about this in our episode on compassionate pre-foreclosure conversations. The best investors are the ones who show up and actually listen, right?
Exactly. Active listening is the biggest tool in your kit. I remember a probate deal where siblings were fighting like cats and dogs over the house. The one thing they all agreed on was, we just want this to be over. Didn't matter that the price could have been higher. They needed peace, closure, and someone to untangle the mess. Empathy and creative solutions, not the numbers, closed that deal.
So, building trust, let's break this down. Say you're talking to a seller for the first time. What are your go-to moves for making them feel understood and valued?
For me, it starts before I ever mention price or terms. I ask permission, like, is it okay if I ask about what's making you think about selling? And then I just listen. I pick up on their body language, their words, and I validate what they're feeling. You say things like, that sounds stressful. I can only imagine what you're dealing with. That shows them you're not just there to take the house off their hands. you actually care about their situation.
Yeah, and the little things matter, like making eye contact, even if it's over Zoom, or restating what they just said to prove you're actually tracking. Setting realistic expectations from the start, here's what's going to happen next, here's what I can and can't do, goes a long way toward calming folks down, especially if they've had bad experiences with other investors or agents.
Transparency is huge. When you're clear, honest, and you follow through on what you say, that's when anxiety drops and confidence goes up. The trust you build in those first 10 minutes, that's usually what makes or breaks the deal later on.
Now, when you're ready to move the deal forward, how do you keep that trust alive without making it feel like a high-pressure sales pitch?
Follow-up is the key. I always remind folks, you're in control here. I'm just a resource. Then I check in, sharing stories of other sellers who were in similar spots and what worked for them. It's all about reinforcing that they're not alone and there's a path forward, even if they're hesitant or nervous. Someone might not commit on the first call, but if you keep showing up, providing value, and sharing success stories, the relationship gets stronger instead of feeling transactional.
That's a good point. I love role-playing objections too. I'll practice, what if someone says they're worried their friends will judge them for selling cheap? Or, what if the seller is terrified of moving too fast? The more you practice those tough conversations, the smoother you get at focusing on a solution, not pushing too hard, not losing empathy, just leading them to a safe decision.
Exactly. Role-playing helps you build muscle memory for those moments, so when real emotions show up, you're ready to stay calm, supportive, and still close with confidence because you've already lived it a few times.
Let's get tactical about communication. Active listening is step one, so when a seller shares something personal, repeat it back in your own words to show you get it. So it sounds like you're worried about timing, not just the money. Did I get that right?
Yeah, and don't be afraid to ask open-ended questions like, what are your main worries about this sale? Or, what does your perfect outcome look like? People sometimes hide their biggest fears behind small talk, so you've got to dig a little deeper, but do it with empathy.
I like to mix in stories too, like when I had that seller whose only question in the end was, can I trust you to handle this quietly? Telling them about other folks I've helped in a similar bind helped her drop her guard. Storytelling isn't just about bragging, it gives people proof you understand their pain and know how to solve it.
Exactly. And that ties right back to everything we covered in our episode on compassionate pre-foreclosure conversations. People remember stories, not stats. Now, we could talk about numbers and scripts all day, but if you want to win in negotiations, you really have to read the room. Emotional intelligence, being able to spot when someone is nervous, defensive, or on the verge of giving up, lets you adjust your approach instantly.
Totally. Sometimes you just need to acknowledge those feelings out loud. Like, I can see this is weighing on you. Let's take a breath and go at your pace. Or if you notice a seller keeps circling back to one issue, you can frame your offer in a way that meets that emotional need, not just their financial one. It's about meeting them where they are, emotionally, and reframing your proposals to show, your peace of mind matters just as much to me as the deal itself.
You can't skip the validation part. When you reflect back what someone's feeling without judgment, it totally drops their guard and opens up the chance for a real solution, not just a transaction.
So, let's wrap this all up by talking about making empathy the foundation of every negotiation. What's your best tactical tip for actually doing that?
Honestly, it comes down to acknowledging every emotion you see out loud. Say, I hear you. I know this is tough. And when I make an offer, I focus on how it eases their stress, not just what it pays. Like, this way, you can move on from this chapter without any more late-night phone calls from the bank. It's about showing the deal is custom-made for their deepest concern. Use those reflective statements no matter what, because it invites the seller to work with you, not feel boxed in. That's how you get mutually beneficial outcomes every single time.
If you're listening and thinking, how do I even start putting this into practice? It's one conversation at a time. Every situation is different, but if you lead with empathy, almost every conversation goes smoother. And honestly, your deals will too.
Exactly. So just to recap, sellers want certainty, speed, relief, and respect. And if you can tap into the psychology behind the deal, you're going to unlock way more opportunities than just focusing on price. If you want to learn how to master this side of investing and get all the tools to practice it for real, head over to expertrealestatecoaching.com. This has been The Psychology of the Deal. I'm Don DeRosa. Thanks for joining me. Mia, as always, fantastic to have you here.
Thank you, Don. Always a pleasure. See you all in the next episode. And remember, it's people first, property second. Bye for now.
That's it for today on Expert Real Estate Secrets. If you're ready for hands-on coaching and real results, go to www.expertrealestatecoaching.com right now. Join the community, get the tools, and start closing more deals. We'll see you on the next episode.